Hi, I'm Lisa from Trails Edge Astrology, and I'm here to talk about the astrology of February. So let me share my screen so you can see my slides. All right, let's get going, see what this month has in store for us. So on this webinar, just so you know what we're doing, we're going to talk a little bit about Aquarian energy because February is largely covered by the Aquarian time period of our sky. We'll talk a little bit about the lunar cycles and working with them. We'll talk about transits and the energy for the month and show you where that might show up for you. And then I've got some rituals and practices for you that I think might help embody the energy and help us deal with some of the stuff that's going on. So, Aquarius. Aquarius runs this year from January 18th to February 17th. And Aquarian energy changes day to day depending on exactly when the sun moves into a different sign. But this year it's the 18th to February 17th. These yellow squiggles, this is the sign. So if you're looking at your chart, this is what you're looking for in terms of Aquarian energy. Aquarius is a fixed sign. So we have cardinal, we have fixed, and we have mutable. Cardinal energy starts the season. So Capricorn is a cardinal sign. The fixed energy is the middle part of the sign, middle part of a season, which allows us to dig in and really hold space and do the work we need to do. And then the mutable signs, which in this season, in winter, is Pisces, is that changeable time where we're moving from one season to another, in this case, from winter to spring. So Aquarius is this fixed energy that allows us to dig in and do the work we're going to do. Aquarius is an air sign as well. Sometimes we think of it as or sometimes people think it is a water sign because the symbol for Aquarius is the water bearer, but it is actually an air sign. And air signs have to deal with our thoughts and our intellect, our conversations with people, how we interact with people. So, so fixed air is really about holding ideas, holding space and holding ideas. In terms of polarity, signs are either positive or negative or yin or yang. Aquarius is a yang sign, a positive sign, which means that it is more outgoing. So yin signs are more receptive and yang signs are more outgoing in terms of their engagement in the world. Just in general, air and fire signs are all yang and water and earth signs are all yin. The ruler for Aquarius is Sagittarius. In modern astrology, you sometimes see the ruler of Aquarius as cited as Uranus. I, for lots of reasons that I can go into another time, really feel like Saturn is a better representation of Aquarius for me. Well, and so Saturn is the sign, the ruler of Aquarius that I use. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that. The reason I use Saturn and I prefer Saturn as the ruler for Aquarius as opposed to Uranus is because of this fixed air nature. So Aquarius is really about working within the boundaries. So I'll show you in a little bit some of the significations of Aquarian energy. Sorry about that, had to sneeze. So I'll show you in a little bit some of the significations of Aquarian energy, but on the whole, Aquarian in this fixed air nature is really about understanding where the boundaries are and how to make the sacred container more just, more equitable, more perfect, those kinds of things, which are really very Saturnian structures, whereas Uranian energy tends to be more revolutionary and more inclined to tear down what's there. So it's that's how I feel about it. Other people can argue it a different way, but for me, the ruler of Aquarius is Saturn. The motto for Aquarius is I know. Again, it's an intellectual sign. It's in our heads, thinking, thoughts, ideas. In terms of medical astrology, Aquarius rules the ankles, shins, and circulatory systems. And I will tell you that when I'm doing chart readings, if I see somebody with strong Aquarian energy or with Aquarius on one of the angles or something like that, I wonder about nervous energy and some of those kind of anxiety and those kinds of things, because it can be that supercharge, the energy of not being able to let something go as easily as maybe another sign would be able to. Color sky blue, and if you're a tarot reader, the star card in tarot represents the Aquarian energy, or the star card is associated with Aquarian energy in tarot. So in terms of attributes, all signs have positive qualities and have shadow qualities. And Aquarian, the positive qualities I pulled out were intellectual, humanitarian, utopian, emotionally detached, scientific, revolutionary, and freedom-seeking. These are a handful of archetypes. If you or somebody you know has strong Aquarian energy, they may or may not match all of these things. We have lots of other things going on in our chart. But in general, when we think of people with strong Aquarian energy, these are the kinds of things that we see. All of the people with strong Aquarian energy that I know are smart, are very smart. So it's that fixed air, that ability to hold on to those ideas. The shadow sides of strong Aquarian energy are potentially aloofness, potentially tactlessness. Again, Aquarian energy is very rational, which sometimes means it loses the nuance of coding things in a way that is palatable for people. So a strong Aquarian energy can feel tactless. It can feel inflexible. Because it's that fixed sign. Aquarian energy holds an idea. Doesn't mean they can't change their mind, but they're very much, once they are committed to an idea or an ideal, they move forward with it, and can be inflexible and can be a little rigid. Aquarian energy can be fanatical. It's that same idea, like holding on to, like, this is the true perfect vision, and there are no other ways of thinking about it. Sometimes Aquarians can always feel like the outsider. One one stereotypical joke I have heard about people with strong Aquarius energy is that they love humanity, but they hate the people. So again, and it goes back to that Saturnian rulership. Saturn is the boundary, and Aquarian energy can see what's inside the boundary, but also what's outside the boundary. And sometimes they leave themselves outside the boundary. Malcontent, not a nice compliment, but Aquarian energy can find fault with lots of things, and a little bit of unpredictability. In holding on to an idea really strongly, sometimes the application can be a little bit jarring or unpredictable. Some notable people with Aquarius in sun, with their sun in Aquarius, that I think are worth mentioning. Whenever I think of Aquarian energy, I do think of Oprah Winfrey, because she broke down so many boundaries. Like, she could see the wall, she could see the glass ceiling, and she went on to break it in terms of lots of ways, and for the greater good, to allow other people to follow in her footsteps. Ellen DeGeneres is another person who has been boundary breaking in her work. Ed Sheeran, Chris Rock, and I had to bring up Jennifer Aniston, because Aquarian energy, because of the humanitarian nature and because of the communicative energy associated with the sign, is often paired with the idea of friendship. And so Aquarians, in Aquarian relationships, you want to be friends first. And so I had to mention Jennifer Aniston, because of course her breakthrough was in Friends, the show Friends. So, just some archetypes to show you how an Aquarius sun shows up. Again, we've all got lots and lots of placements and lots of blending of any of this energy. You may or may not know that even if you don't have planets in Aquarius, that Aquarian energy shows up somewhere in your life. It will show up in the house placement that you're, in your natal chart. Whatever house Aquarius rules will that's where this kind of energy will show up for you. And when I'm reading charts, I know that Saturn rules Aquarius, and so I will look at where your Saturn placement is as well to see how that conversation is going. So looking at the house placement to see where it's showing up in your life, where that energy's coming through in your life, and then looking to where Saturn is and how that conversation is going. So somebody with an Aquarian with somebody who has Aquarius in the seventh house, which is the house of committed relationships, and has a Saturn in Pisces, maybe. I would look at the connection between those two, because an Aquarian seventh house would say a very detached relationship potentially, or wanting to be friends first. But when I notice that Saturn is placed in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces is very is emotional for Saturn. Saturn's not a particularly emotional planet, but Pisces is an emotional sign, is a water sign, is about really that agape love and cosmic connection. So that would flavor my interpretation of that placement. That's probably a rabbit hole we don't need to go down, but we have gone down it. So that's, when you're looking at where Aquarius is in your chart and how this energy might be showing up for you, don't think that because you don't have planets in that sign that energy is not impacting you, because it is. All right, let's talk about the moons. As those of you who have followed me for any length of time know, I really do place a lot of importance on the lunar cycles and follow that pattern, live my life in that way. We just had a beautiful full moon in Leo on the 25th. According to the Farmer's Almanac, this was the wolf moon, hence the wolf picture. So, when we have full moons, the sun and moon are in opposite signs in the sky. So the sun is in Aquarius and the moon is in Leo. And really, this is the discussion for us about how we are individuals and how we are in groups and community. So it's the king and the people, the stage actor and the audience. And so this full moon really invites us to kind of consider where we are on that spectrum. Some people may be further to one side or the other. Our goal in life and our invitation in life is to find the balance, find the place where we can be secure and comfortable with that duality, holding those two things that seem like they can't be true at the same time. You can't be the star and in the audience at the same time, except that life says you can. February 9th, we have a new moon in Aquarius. So new moons are new beginnings. We begin every 28 days, so this does not need to be a huge new beginning. But this is a special moon. The Aquarius new moon is the Southeast Asian Lunar New Year. So every the Chinese New Year, Southeast Asian New Year, always starts with this Aquarius new moon. So February 9th is that new year. And so that's auspicious and beautiful and worth recognizing. I will, in the various things I do, talk more about new moon intentions around that. I always think that there are lots of times around this time of year to set your intentions, but if you have not done that yet, this might be a nice new moon to do that with. And then on February 24th, we have a full moon in Virgo. So the sun will have moved into Pisces at that point. And we'll talk about that as it gets closer. But just so you know, those are the lunations that we're looking at. In general, when the moon is dark, when we see less of it in the sky, we're quiet. When the moon is bright, we can be bold and out there. In general, from new moon to full moon, we build and grow and expand. We get to the full moon, we shine our light, share with the world. And then between the full moon and the new moon, we release and we decide what's essential and we decide what we want to take into the next cycle. Again, this happens a lot, and we may or may not be earth-shattering every cycle, but the more you can live into that space and recognize that you need that you can't grow all the time, that you need release, and you need nourishment, and you need rest and restoration. So that's my little speech about working with lunar cycles. All right, so key transits, things we're looking for in February. And to talk about that, I want to go back to January 20th when Pluto entered Aquarius. So on that day, Pluto and the Sun came together at the very, very last degrees and minutes of Capricorn, and then both moved into Aquarius. So, so that is a significant ending and the beginning of a new beginning. Every ending is a new beginning. So Plutonian energy is about where in our lives and in society we're being asked to transform. Pluto has been in Capricorn for the last 15 years or so, since starting in 2008, 2009, through this whole time. And we have seen many of the structures and many of the Capricornian traditions that we have been so that we felt were secure, have started to crumble, or to we've been shown weaknesses that we needed to see in order to live up to our full potential, both as a society and as a human being. So in your life, you probably have seen some structures that you thought were solid that have dissolved. And in society, we certainly have. During this time, we've had the banking crisis, we had the Great Recession, of course, we've had the pandemic. So lots of places where we've seen structures not be as secure as we thought they were. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the Revolutionary War. So Pluto moves very, very slowly. So it's been a long time, but it's that kind of energy where we see that the structures we're living under are not what we thought they were, or not what we want, and we figure out how to make them better. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was right after the Revolutionary War, when the Constitution was being developed and the idea of a more perfect union was coming into play. The idea of all men are created equal, which of course we can take as much exception with as we would like at the moment. But at the time, that was a very unique and Aquarian kind of idea. So so that's the kind of movement we are in right now, that place in the sky where we're going from looking at the existing structures and where they're not meeting our needs, into this space where we're thinking about what the boundaries are, where the boundaries need to be expanded or broken down, and what a more perfect, more equitable society looks like. And life, this, as above, so below, as within, so without. What happens in society is probably also happening in your life in some way. There are definitely mirrors and parallels to those things. So this is happening all around us, and it is happening within us. So I just wanted to bring up January 20th, because that was one of arguably the most significant turning points of the year. Pluto is in Aquarius for another 20 years, so this is not a fast change. This is really a slow evolution. So, you may or may not see immediate actions, but there are seeds being planted. Pluto moved into Aquarius back last year, in 2023, between March and June. So you might look back to that time period and think about what your life looked like then, or if ideas came up, or if opportunities presented themselves. Those things may show up again. Pluto is in Aquarius between January 20th and I believe September. I don't have that date in my head. So much of this year, and then maybe it's October. Anyway, sometime in the fall. And then it slides back into Capricorn for just a little bit of time, which happens to coincide with the US election. So that will be an interesting, fall will be an interesting time period. But and I lost my train of thought on that. I know what I was going to say. And then it goes into Capricorn for the next 20 years in December or January of this year, next year. So it's doing this back and forth between the two signs, between Capricorn and Aquarius. But this is kind of our final, it's our second trial period before we go into like, we're really living in this energy. So think back to between about March and June of last year, see what's coming up for you now. It's planting the seeds of the work you're going to do to be more authentically who you are in the end. Pluto work is sometimes not easy. It asks us to look at our shadows. Pluto is the god of the underworld. And so it asks us to dig deep into the things we don't always show. But when we do, we often find gems. Diamonds are buried deep under the earth. Crystals. There are pockets of riches if we're willing to look in that space. And so that's what Plutonian energy is asking us to do, and Pluto in Aquarius in particular. So for much of the month, the reason I'm talking about this so much is for much of the month, between the 5th and the 25th, planets are starting to have conversations with Pluto in Aquarius. So Mercury, Mars, and Venus are all doing that throughout the month. So when planets come together like this, it's the seeding point of a new conversation or a new part of your life that's coming online to this new energy. These planets move reasonably fast. They do this every year, so it's not totally uncommon. But again, it's because this cycle is new. I think it's significant for us to pay attention to what comes up for us, what kinds of ideas or where the Martian energy, where our ability to act comes up, the Venusian energy, what we love, who we love, how we spend our time, treasures, and talents, just might be up for some review this month. And I invite you to sit maybe in a space of a little bit of uncertainty around that while these seeding moments start to take place. February 8th, I wanted to mention that the sun squares Uranus. So the sun is in Aquarius, Uranus is in Taurus. Both of them are in fixed signs, so they're not necessarily looking to upset the apple cart. But when anything touches Uranus, sometimes the apple cart gets upset nonetheless. So be interesting to see in your life if February 8th, there's some invitation to make a change, either coming from within you or externally. It depends on what else is going on in your chart and where it's hitting. But there might be a surprise push forward. And then February 22nd, I wanted to mention that Venus meets Mars. This happens almost a little bit over a year, depending on retrogrades and all that, but about every year Venus and Mars come together. And it's, Venus is our desire, our desires and the things we want in life, our resources, and Mars is our ability to act. So when Venus and Mars come together, our actions, our desires meet our actions, so we're able to act on the things we love and move some things forward. So that's always a nice interaction. So worth mention. Something I didn't put on here that I probably should have is after I'm recording this on Friday, January 26th. So after this weekend, all of the major planets will be direct. And so I think this is going to feel, this time period between now and at least the equinox in March is going to feel really, really fast. And it honestly, it might not slow down. This might feel like a really fast year. So this is a kind of this is a time to set your intentions, to know where you're going, so that when things come at you quickly, you can decide, yes, this fits into my larger plan, or no, that does not. It's also a time to really think about self-care, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. So I wanted to give you a primer on how this might show up for you. And I'm not going to read this. I'm going to let you pause the slide if you're not sure what house Aquarius is in your chart. These are based on whole sign houses. And as again, if you have worked with me, I typically use Placidus house system. So this may be too coarse a look to depending on your perspective. But nonetheless, if you're looking at where this energy is going to show up for you over the next 20 years, really, this is not just right now in the sky, although that's totally true. We are in Aquarius season, so there's a lot of Aquarian energy right now. But with Pluto moving into Aquarius, this is a place where you might, where you will be digging in and doing some work over the next 20 years, not quick. So don't be afraid of any of this. It really is an invitation. Pluto wants to have a dialogue with you. I very much believe that the universe is in that we are all colluding together to move not only our own souls forward, but the souls of humanity forward. And so this is really an invitation to think about how you want to co-create with the universe, what it is that you want to bring in. Now, with Plutonian energy, you can't phone it in. So you can't be like, well, I want to do this like easy thing. So Pluto, let's work on this thing that, I don't really care about. This is a time to really think about where it is that you have something you need to work on that's a long-term seismic kind of shift, and invite that energy in, have a conversation. You don't need to know how to do it. It's just opening up the conversation. So for example, if you are a Cancer rising and this energy is hitting in your 8th house, perhaps it is that that you have these karmic patterns with people in your lives. You end up in a relationship and it goes the same way, and it's, and you're unhappy with it. That there's some karmic contract you have set up that you might not understand, but you can see it because you keep repeating the patterns. If you're a Cancer rising with Pluto coming into your 8th house, it might be a time to say, okay, I know I'm doing this. I don't know why and I don't know how, but I'm inviting the universe to help me understand, help me evolve my soul and figure out how I can approach this differently. So that's my plea as you think about where Aquarius is in your chart, where Pluto is in your chart. What can you think about moving forward and progressing that maybe you have not wanted to look at? And I've said this a dozen times. This is 20 years. We got a lot of time to work on this energy. So there's no rush. You don't have to have the answers. You just have to ask the questions and be open to whatever comes up. All right. So let's talk about working with this energy. As I mentioned, the sky's moving really fast right now. I don't know if you're feeling it, but I'm certainly feeling it. There are just lots of opportunities and lots of activities, and time is going quickly. And that can be fun, and it can also be overwhelming. So I wanted to give you some thoughts and ideas for helping you stay present, stay in your intention, stay in your integrity while things are moving really fast. So starting off with plant allies, I am a big fan of herbs and working with plants. And so that plant ally I wanted to bring to you for this season is Tulsi. Sometimes it's called holy basil. Tulsi is what's called an adaptogen, which means that it's an herb that has significant properties for helping us relax our nervous system, reduce stress. I've got all kinds of attributes down here. Adaptogens there are many of them, but they are really phenomenal plants to incorporate into your life because they have so many fabulous properties. So Tulsi is actually called the queen of the herbs in Ayurvedic teachings. She has been worshipped as a goddess because of all of the beautiful things that she can bring into our lives in terms of calming down our central nervous system, helping us regulate, reducing inflammation, all of the things that we're, in general in our fast-paced society struggle with. So, another reason I like Tulsi is it tastes really good and it's reasonably easy to find. Organic India has a nice selection of Tulsi teas with various other blends in them. And at least here, I'm in central Illinois, at least where I am, there are several tea shops and grocery stores that carry Tulsi tea varieties. So it's reasonably easy to find. It's delicious, and it really has so many beautiful properties. Now, if you're not used to working with plant allies, I will say that that it's really important to give a plant ally a long enough time. So I like to, when I'm meeting a new plant, I like um, to invite it into my realm in whatever ways I choose to every day. So I will drink a cup of Tulsi tea every day throughout the month. Um, and I will say that I like Tulsi as tea. I haven't honestly taken it as a tincture, which is a kind of a liquid. I'm not a fan of taking pills. I like to engage with the herb um, throughout the system. I like to let more of my senses engage with the herb, especially an herb like Tulsi that is so sacred and so powerful. I want to be able to smell it and feel it and taste it and all of those things as it enters my body, and really, really celebrate the beauty of Tulsi. So again, I drink a cup or two a day, um, and it's really nice. So there's my plant ally suggestion for kind of like if you're feeling overwhelmed in particular, but even if you're not, just she's one to try, um, to see how it feels in your body. All right, some astro invitations. So particularly with the Aquarius Leo axis. So Aquarian energy can be detached and can be really heady. Um, But if we look to the other side of that, Leo invites us to play and to be maybe even a little self-centered. So one of my suggestions is to do some inner child work. Maybe write a letter to your inner child, have a conversation with your inner child, see where he or she, they wants to play, wants to be really creative. Um, Whereas Aquarian energy can pull us towards the over intellectualization, the Leo opposite asks us to just explore our wildest dreams and whatever creative ventures we might want to come up with. Another invitation is to give yourself permission to entertain a fledgling idea. We're at the beginning of this cycle, so can you give yourself permission to do something that you're not sure about? Without self-doubt, without criticism, just give something a try. If your heart is saying, do this thing, what if you give yourself some time this month to actually do that? And then the third astro invitation is to pick up a copy of a book like The Artist's Way, or there are other authors who've written similar books about how to really sink into and explore your creativity and balance your rational mind with your creative mind. And what does that look like and how does that feel? So those are some astro invitations right now that I think will help set us up in this Plutonian switch, in this Aquarian time, in a nice way to really balance those two parts of ourselves, because we need both of them to really be our best in the world. Here are some affirmations. If you are a fan of affirmations, radical self-care helps me unlock my potential. I allow myself to feel my feelings and lovingly nurture them. I am liberated and at peace. Anxiety has no place in my life. I fearlessly chase my dreams. I lead with compassion for myself and others. So if you're an affirmation fan, those are some things that, again, I think can really help us sink into this Leo and this Aquarius Leo duality and this switch into the Pluto in Aquarius. And finally, thanks so much for being here. I am grateful to have you. You can find me at lisamerrifield.com. If you're finding this and haven't liked this channel, please like and subscribe to help other people find the channel, help me grow. You'll find various other things, various other activities. I'll stop there. My teachings and my activities are on lisamerrifield.com, and I would love to see you there. All right. Thank you so much. And for those of you who again know me from other things, keep up the good work. I'm so proud of you.